Here with Susie Ribeiro Ayala, Miami-Dade County criminal defense attorney. We're going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
As a criminal defense attorney, what can you tell us of your knowledge on the gun control laws in Miami-Dade County?
I feel that the gun controls in Miami-Dade County are not strict enough. I don't think that the requirements for people to own guns are either strict enough or diligent enough to show that gun owners are in fact responsible and lack not only a criminal history, but a history of mental illness in order to own a gun.
Okay. Are private shows at a gun show regulated differently than sales at a gun shop?
They're regulated very differently. Private sales done in a gun show don't require either a receipt nor do they require a background check. So anybody can walk into a gun show where there is a private collector and can acquire a firearm from a private collector without any background check regarding either criminal history or mental health history. That loophole in and of itself, I think, creates a very widespread problem with regard to people carrying handguns and rifles that perhaps should not.
Do you believe convicted felons should be banned from carrying a firearm?
It depends upon certain situations. I believe that sometimes there are people that are convicted of a crime and are adjudicated felons that are prohibited from carrying firearms. However, there is a system in place whereby even if they don't get a full pardon from the government and from the governor, they can reapply after a certain amount of time to the office of the governor for not only a pardon, but for a partial pardon which would allow them to vote and carry a firearm once they have completed everything that was assigned to them with regard to that particular adjudication. As a particular example, I once represented somebody who, because of the charge, because it was a DUI with serious bodily injury, it required a mandatory adjudication, which would make him a felon and prohibit him from carrying a firearm. However, he was also in the military and had volunteered to serve in Iraq. That's the type of person that I believe an exception should be made for. Somebody that is going to provide our country with security and serve our military, despite the fact that he is a convicted felon, should be given an opportunity to not only own firearms, but discharge firearms and have firearms in his possession. And therein lies the difference. I think it has to be taken on a case-by-case basis. And I think it is appropriate to have a method of review through the governor's office for those types of situations. And fortunately, that is in place.
What is your position on the ban of automatic assault rifles?
Okay. I'm going to go back a little bit to the last question because I didn't give it a name. What that is called is a restoration of civil rights. And a felon can apply and have his civil rights restored if he proves certain things. My position on banning automatic assault rifles is very simple. I do believe automatic assault rifles should absolutely be banned. However, I also believe that law enforcement should be allowed to carry automatic assault rifles because you don't want to create a situation in which criminals on the street have better firearms than law enforcement. And therein lies the problem. So I do believe that law enforcement should be allowed to carry. There should be a strict ban for anybody else, and there should be a strict minimum mandatory for not only felons, but for people who carry automatic assault rifles. And although I do believe that the right to bear arms is a very important right, I also historically know that firearms are often used, particularly in domestic situations, as a weapon that is not used intentionally but is used in the heat of passion, and most crimes that occur with a handgun are as a result of either domestic violence or are a result of accidents. So I do believe that we need stricter measures in place.
And when you say minimum mandatory, you mean minimum mandatory sentence, right?
Correct.
Huh.
There are many laws within the state of Florida that carry minimum mandatory sentences when a firearm is used, as opposed to any other weapon.
Okay. You're friends with many police officers. Do you know any who have been shot at while working for the police department?
I know of many police officers that were shot in the line of duty. I was involved in a case where I represented somebody who was accused of accessory after the fact, in a case that was very well publicized.
What's accessory after the fact?
Accessory after the fact means that you didn't take place in either the killing of the police officer or anything leading up to it. However, that you somehow helped the individual that killed the police officer after he had committed the crime. And I was involved in a case like that. We were able to point out to the prosecutor that the people involved unwittingly and unwillingly helped this individual in the crime once it took place.
Okay. Do you think that licensing requirements to carry a firearm are strict enough?
I do not. I believe there needs to be a more extensive background check, not only of a person's criminal history, but of a person's mental health history. And I think that there are certain rights that you have to give up if you want to own and carry a firearm. For example, the right to privacy in your mental records is a very important right. However, if you want to own a firearm, if you want to carry a firearm, I firmly believe that that right should be waived, and you should allow the state of Florida to look into your medical history, look into your mental health history, to assure that we are protecting the citizens of Miami-Dade County in the way that we should. Excuse me. For example, records of a patient that has gone to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or has taken medication for a mental health illness are protected by the HIPAA laws. However, I do believe that one should waive those rights if they are looking to carry something as inherently dangerous as a firearm. We waive our rights every day for certain reasons. And I think that because firearms are meant for no other reason than to kill or maim somebody before we put them in somebody's hands, we should have an extensive background check on those people. And although I do believe in guarding people's privacy, I also believe that when carrying a firearm, there are certain privacy rights that should be waived. And if it's somebody that has no history, it shouldn't be a problem. But in the specific case of the gentleman that shot Ronald Reagan and the gentleman that shot John Lennon, no background checks were done. Both of these men had extensive mental health issues that, had they been checked into, my position would certainly be that they should not have been allowed to carry firearms with the mental health history they had. Certainly somebody who has schizophrenia or bipolar disorder should be much more highly regulated than a citizen who has never suffered from mental health issues, because a firearm is a much more dangerous instrumentality in the hands of that type of person.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.